just starting, it appears Alan's already completely lost his mind, but what else is new? Hey everyone, welcome to Disassembled, the official podcast of the BGCP Big Glasgow comic page. I'm your host, Ian Lynn, as always, and this week I am joined by Alan Todd, the angry man himself.
Sup?
We are, of course, also joined by Bethany Spain.
Hello.
How are we all doing?
Pretty good.
We're here.
Excellent. There's so much to talk about this week. There's things we've been watching. There's news. We've got some catching up to do with Falcon and Winter Soldier, but we'll get to that. That's fine. Let's jump right into everyone's favorite segment, what you've been reading / watching. We kind of talked about this before the recording, and not as much reading this week, but a lot of watching. I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off with Alan. What you been watching, bruh?
Same as everybody, Invincible, because it's really good.
It's so good.
It's so good. That cast, man, and the violence, and it's just, I love it.
It's incredible. I'll tell you guys what. Since Invincible's kind of on all our list, along with Falcon and Winter Soldier, let's go through the stuff that's not that first. So I see on your list here, Strangers in Paradise. Tell me about that. What is it?
Okay, so I've basically sworn off modern comics now because I can't afford them. It's just not a thing anymore, money. So I'm going through all the stuff that I've got that I haven't read. And Strangers in Paradise has been in the pile for years. So it's like Terry Moore, guy from Rachel Rising and different stuff. Amazing artist, just so good. And it's about two best friends, Kachu and Francine, and just the different scrapes that they get into. And I've only read the first 2 volumes, which is 12 issues. One of the best things I've read. It's fantastic. Everyone seems like a real character pretty much from the first page they're introduced. Like a real person, sorry, from the first page that they're introduced, and it just gets better and better. So, could not recommend it more. If you haven't read it, then definitely.
So I think you were about to answer the question I was about to ask. What's the what's the setting here? What's the time period? Is it modern? Is it?
Yeah, it's set in the early to mid 90s. Two best friends live together.
Fun period of time.
Yeah, it's when it came out, so it's pretty much that. Francine has a boyfriend who is desperate to have sex with her, but she has been putting him off for quite some time to make sure that they're, going to make it and whatnot. And he's a dick. She's great. And her roommate is Kachu, who is just badass. She, is very protective of her friend and does not like this douchebag that she's currently sleeping with but not having sex with. And it just goes from there. Like I said, I've only read 12 issues, but the first kind of 3 just deals with Francine, Freddie, which is the dickhead boyfriend, and Kachu, and this new guy gets introduced into the mix called David, who becomes more important as it goes on. The next 9 issues is the second volume that deals with Kachu's past, which is interesting. I don't want to say anything because I went into it completely blind, and it was just right. Something big is coming. Every issue, another little piece of the kind of puzzle gets added in. There's more and more intrigue, and it's just I can't recommend it enough. It is fantastic. The artwork, it's all done by Terry Moore. He just does inks, letters. I was going to say colouring, but only in the covers. Writes it.
Right.
Sings the theme tune, the whole thing. But dude can draw like nothing else. Everybody looks like a real human. There's not just hulking monsters walking about. How does no one recognise Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne when they're sitting in a cafe or something, because they're both just absolutely. They look like Bane to me. Whenever you see them drawn next to normal people.
Yeah.
But everyone
just huge dudes.
Yeah, just bodybuilders. But everyone looks like an actual human being in this. Francine goes off the rails a little bit. Things happen, and myself, I comfort eat. Do you know what I mean? Just stress, and I'll just go to the fridge. So she gets a little bit of weight as it goes on. So she looks like an actual human being. Do you know what I mean? Rather than some idealized fantasy of a human being. And it just makes it all the more interesting. I don't know what to say. Look up
So
Terry Moore's artwork.
it sounds like it's kind of like a little slice of life type thing.
Yeah, but more interesting than my life, certainly. I'm guessing more interesting than either of yours, but maybe not. Like, you
Most
might have
things are more interesting than my life.
Same. But
It's a very low bar.
Yeah, it's like
this is pretty much the most interesting thing I do all week.
Same.
So Strangers in Paradise. It sounds like that's something to check out, especially if you're tired of the same old superhero humdrum. And who'd you say the author / artist was on that?
Terry Moore.
Excellent. I love when a book is written and drawn all by one person. Like, you really know you're getting their vision straight across the board.
Funny you should say that. Massimo and I were talking to Alex, not Alex Pratt-Nadell. We did speak to him, which I'm sure everyone's listened to and loved. But we spoke to John Layman last week, which should be up probably today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he was saying
that should be up. By the time this is up, that should have been up for a couple days.
Everyone will have heard it and loved it. Like, no question. Massimo was great.
Yes.
I was okay. But John Layman was really
There's
good.
a reason I've just completely more or less stepped away from the interview side of things. Like, that's Daniel and Massimo's bag as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah,
you just gotta let him do his thing.
Good. Indeed. And he's Sean, man. He's Sean. And John Layman was a nice dude, but on Q and a bunch of other things, like, he obviously writes and he does the lettering as well. And he says that he prefers to work with an artist that does their own colouring, just to kind of keep the number of people involved as small as possible, which kind of makes sense. Like, I can see why you would want to do that. But anyway, that was just a little...
Yeah, it kind of makes sure there's a direct continuity with the vision of the project. There's not too much of a game of telephone going on.
Yeah, he actually kind of references that is one of the biggest reasons. Like, when you've got like 4 different, like a colorist, an inker, a letterer, a writer, it's just like, so many links in the chain.
Yeah.
Indeed. Anyway,
too many cooks in a very small kitchen. Bethany.
Yes.
Obviously, we're gonna talk about Invincible and FNWS, the Sam and Bucky Power Hour. But I see also in here you wrote you're watching the MCU in timeline order. How's that going?
Yes. We are only a few into it, which so far it's just reminded us how much we how much we love the first Captain America movie. First Avenger, so good.
Yeah.
That was, as soon as we realized that would be the first movie we watched, if we watch it in timeline order, we were like, well, we have to do it.
I was going to ask you like what the order actually was then. So Captain America first, what's next?
Captain Marvel.
That makes sense because that takes place in the 90s, right?
Yeah. Which is good, but as we watched it the second time, we realized none of us could remember a thing that happened in it. It's so essential to sort of establishing so much in the MCU, and neither of us could remember a single plot detail except from Goose.
I'm gonna say something that people aren't gonna like.
Okay.
I don't think Brie Larson is a memorable actress. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't think she's that good. I'm gonna get filleted for saying that.
I've liked her in a few things. I just feel like for what the movie was supposed to be, it just doesn't stand up against especially after some of the movies we'd had before it. It just doesn't stand up in terms of rewatchability. You see it once, you're good to go. That's it.
That's kind of how I felt about Ant-Man, which you guys like. So you guys are watching it in literal, like, in-universe chronological order.
Yes, so I believe Iron Man is next.
That's an interesting way to do it. I went back and rewatched the MCU, it was December-ish, I think, a few months ago, but I watched it in release order. So Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man 2, Avengers. Man, the first Iron Man still rocks. Like, that movie is so good.
Massimo was very excited for that one.
Oh my God. That is... The first Iron Man is so rewatchable. The one thing I didn't include in my rewatch that you arguably could is the Ed Norton Hulk movie, because that it like halfway takes place in the MCU.
Well, I mean, the one thing we're doing is sticking to the movies, because obviously things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff can technically fit into the timeline, but we watched that fairly recently. We were like, just move. And we've just watched, obviously, one.
Yeah.
Soldiers.
Well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. became more and more like non-canon to the main MCU as it went on. Same with the Netflix stuff. That was the possible news. Okay, we'll come back to it. There we go. My eyes lit up. I remembered. Okay. The The Netflix stuff, right? Yeah, no, that's an interesting way to watch those movies, and I look forward to you guys watching Iron Man because that's such a fun film.
I'm just
I
glad
guess
to hear
would
that you're
go.
not doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, because I was like, oh, please, that's a big commitment for something that's not that
Yeah,
good.
that's
Well, we watched it fairly recently. We were like, neither of us had actually finished the entire thing. We dropped off
Same.
somewhere around like 4 or something.
Yeah.
So we just went through like, we'll get through it. We got through it. Wasn't worth getting through, but we did it.
yeah.
I think the
But
last thing I
forced
saw
me to
was
watch all
Ghost
of
Rider.
Riverdale.
Oh, Riverdale!
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
I
when
enjoyed
when
the
I
first
dropped
few
off.
episodes, but I've not seen more of it.
I mean, look, man, we all know Nicolas Cage was the best Ghost Rider. There's no replacing him. Irreplaceable. I think they should bring Nick Cage into the MCU as Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
Yeah, let's do it.
You're watching
Bring
Riverdale. What about Sabrina? Did you watch that?
I did. I have forced Massimo to watch so many bad shows. I'm starting to feel bad for it. But he has seen all of Riverdale now. And he never actually watched Serena with me. He just saw a few episodes and it was confusing enough that he was like good. But I did watch it and it was good. The newer season wasn't. The ending was very disappointing.
I was excited for it, but I've not watched any of it, so I wasn't that excited, clearly. But
yeah. Some of it is good, but as soon as you get through it a little bit, you're reminded of how, like, there's a reason it's a CW show, you know? You don't watch the CW shows for, like, that good of a content. You watch it because it's a CW show.
No, you do not. I'm like a season and a half behind on Riverdale, but that
We're on
first
a
3
mid-season
seasons.
break. Plenty of time to catch up.
Oh boy, what a show! I spent most of my time watching Riverdale. I spend going, huh? What? Why?
It doesn't.
Where are the
make
adults
any
in
sense.
this town?
It doesn't
Like-
make any sense where it's at, but this season hasn't been bad. Just weird because they did the whole time jump thing.
okay.
Yeah,
it's just
you mean their
weird.
7-year time jump to 2021, which it already was before the time jump?
So now the actors and actresses actually sort of look the right age.
Yes, the 30-year-olds actually look like 30-year-olds. Fantastic.
It's good to see a TV show with older actors addressing that, though. I mean, like Buffy and whatnot, and they were like 30 and they were playing 16-year-olds. It's crazy.
I mean,
I
all
told
the
you guys
Riverdale
about my
cast
Johnny
hate
Bravo
Riverdale.
reboot,
Not a single Riverdale cast member likes being in.
which I think is great.
That makes for the best
think
kind
that-
of TV.
Yeah, I think that really adds to the chemistry. Hey, speaking of things that aren't really worth going through again, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I watched Mortal Kombat. Dun, 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 dun. Don't watch Mortal Kombat. Dun, 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 dun. That's my review. Yeah, I watched all hour and, I don't know, like 40 minutes of it before credits. That movie has problems.
Just a few.
I got the feeling that
okay,
you quite
here's-
liked it. You seem so enthusiastic.
It shouldn't be that hard to do a Mortal Kombat movie. All right, take Enter the Dragon, add some superpowers, reality spanning plot. You're done. Cool fight scenes. Cool.
Toasty!
That's actually the one reference that wasn't in this movie. Maybe the only one. So this movie doesn't even have a tournament. The entire plot of this movie is actually about Shang Tsung trying to cheat and prevent Mortal Kombat.
You wish he'd succeeded at this point, obviously.
More or less. It's about him sending his people into Earthrealm to like kill all of Earth's champions before Mortal Kombat even starts. The only good parts of the movie are Kano and Sub-Zero. Kano's hilarious. You can watch this movie for Kano alone. He's great. He says lines that I can't repeat on the podcast because we try to stay as not blue as possible. They have Scorpion and Sub-Zero, right? And it's the typical like relationship between them where they're enemies and you killed my clan, blah blah blah. But like the story in this movie is either completely unexplained or parts of it unexplained through the most ham-fisted dialogue, like exposition dumps possible.
Oh, no.
They literally have characters show up and state their name and what they do, or like when they
Well,
choose
how else
Kano,
do you tell a story?
right? The main character, who is original the fighter, Cole Young, his family gets attacked by Sub-Zero, and Jax is like, go find Sonya Blade, blah blah blah. He goes and finds Sonya Blade. Sonya has Kano tied up in her little junkyard like house because she caught him doing a thing. And she's like, that's Kano. And Cole's like, Kano who? And Kano's like, Kano, none of your business. And you're like, all right. We've got references like Kano rips the heart out of a character and goes, Kano wins. We've got Liu Kang saying, Is it Liu Kang or Kung Lao? One of them says flawless victory. I think it's Kung Lao. He cuts someone in half. Okay, the fatalities are all right. Kung Lao cuts someone in half like a buzzsaw on the ground with his hat, just drags him through it, and then he says flawless victory. And I was like, I like the first part there, and you lost me when you said the line.
There's some things that just don't translate to movies.
Yeah.
Shang Tsung says, your soul is mine, that's the line, that's the thing he says. Scorpion speaks entirely in Japanese, with the exception of the one time he says, get over here. So he was in hell and he learned just enough English to say, get over here, but nothing else.
He was busy in
And
hell.
at one point, in an early scene, there's literally a button combo, like down, forward, right button, graffitied onto a wall.
Just in case you didn't know what it was based on.
Just in case you didn't know. There is a scene where Jax fights in the pit, the famous Mortal Kombat stage where you're on a bridge above a big spike pit, and there's a stage fatality where you uppercut a dude and goes down and dies in the spikes. They don't take advantage of that. He does not uppercut a dude into spikes.
You think maybe they did, and then they thought that's going to get us an R rating or whatever, so didn't, like...
Oh, homie. That would be the least violent thing in this movie if someone
Oh, really?
was on
Oh,
spikes.
okay.
Oh, this movie goes hard R.
Oh, I'm totally watching it, isn't it?
This is absolutely... So, okay. Please know, I know I said don't watch Mortal Kombat. Maybe have a few and watch Mortal Kombat is actually the correct advice.
Have a few and just look at the fight scenes on YouTube.
Maybe that's actually the way to go. The story is so nothing in this.
There's no need for the entire, just the fight scenes on YouTube.
Yeah.
There'll be a video with just all of them in it.
And a compilation of Kano. I'm sure that'll be a thing too. Kano's great.
And then you get the entire movie.
Apparently the guy that played Sub-Zero signed on for 4 movies, so...
Yeah, I read that. It's like, that's ambitious.
If they do a sequel to this, I hope it's better. I mean, they definitely leave it open for sequels because it's Mortal Kombat, so, like, there's a reason there's been 11 games in the main line.
People like to beat people up.
I'll say this. If you really want a good Mortal Kombat movie, just go watch the cutscenes for the reboot from 2011. That'll do it. It was a good game. It was really good. It was like the beginning of their reboot trilogy where, like, they redid the timeline, and then there was Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 11, and it's all one through line. And it's really good. They're good 3 good games. I bought them all. I'm bad at them, but I played through all the stories. So yeah, I give it, I don't know, like 3 out of 5 stars. Good violence, bad story, so acting. Kano's great.
You're there for the violence, though, right? I mean, that's the whole point of the film. The story's like a bonus if it gets...
The actual fights, aside from the violence themselves, are kind of eh. So maybe actually just have a few and look up the fatalities, which I mean, then you're going to have to figure out what to do with the rest of your night now that you're drunk. But hey, that's not my problem. Invincible, you guys.
That's it. That's the whole section.
I'm moving on. Like, there's nothing else to say about Mortal Kombat. Invincible's real good, and we all watched it. So neither of you have read... Well, Alan, did you say you read, like, some of the comics, or...?
I'm, like, halfway through something like that.
Okay, so you kind of know where things are headed.
Yeah. Won't say nothing, Bethany, because it's good, and I don't want to spoil nothing for you.
So that's the thing. I want to hear Bethany's predictions as to where this is... What's happening. Where do you think the next episode's going?
So far I've mostly been used the entire time. So I assume there's just gonna be a more death. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of the choices that Robot has made.
Yes. So Robot's through line and story was definitely accelerated in the show. He doesn't become Rudy in young Rex body until, I don't know, like a quarter or a third of the way through the comic.
It's definitely
so they definitely sped that up for the show. He does have, like, they covered the reasons a little bit in this episode. Like, dude has a crush on Monster Girl.
I understand the reasons. Those are very clear. It's just it's a bold statement, you know. He's making moves.
Yeah, he will continue to make moves in many ways throughout the series.
You know what? I'm glad it adds a little something different, because I feel like the first episode was so focused on the killing the Guardians and the mystery behind that. Even if it wasn't a mystery to us, but everyone trying to figure that out. That having like a lot of shows struggle in it they have characters who feel like they should be main characters being side characters so far as established the side characters very well, and they're actually doing stuff which is fun, but like they're just doing weird stuff.
And that'll pretty much continue. Like the side characters, at least most of the main side character, not the weird. Well, the weird stuff does kind of. Most of the main side characters, if you would call them that, like they get a fair amount of play, and I'm expecting them to kind of stay sort of close to the through line in the comics with this. They're obviously remixing some of the events in the order that they happen, but I think they're going to stick to things overall. So yeah, I mean, Robot or Rudy definitely gets a lot to. Eve definitely. Eve has not. She's been kind of sidelined because of the whole Amber thing.
Mhm.
Amber sucks, by the way.
Yeah, earlier on you said Amber sucks, and I was like, I thought she was nice, but I'm thinking of Eve. I messed them up. Like,
yes. No, so the way the Amber thing was handled is actually, I'm just sitting here playing with a knife on.
That's concerning.
The way the Amber thing was handled was very different in the show. In the comic, it's the same thing where Mark keeps like ditching her and having to go places and being late and whatever. But she starts to think that he's dealing drugs because of some things that haven't actually happened in the show yet. That's another thing where they've sped the plot line up. That goes on a lot longer in the comic. And the way that she finds out he's invincible, and I really didn't like what they did in this episode. In the comic, like, she's talking to a friend of hers who's her college roommate at that point about it. And she's talking about all the things that he does and all the stuff going on. And it just clicks in her head like, oh, he's a superhero. And she's relatively cool with it. She's like, oh, that makes so much sense. I'm so glad you're not a drug dealer. In this, she's like, no, I've known you were a superhero the whole time, and you, by the way. Oops.
I quite like the fact that she was like, yeah, I know, I'm not an idiot. Beat it. Like, I quite enjoyed that.
I don't like that she was never like, hey, I know, like, I get it. She was waiting for him to tell her or whatever, but we know comic books exist in this world. Like, people should have an idea of like secret identities and stuff. Especially the last episode when they had the college trip and she chewed him out for disappearing when Invincible was right there and she knew what he was doing. Like, I don't know. I don't think she handled it well.
I've not enjoyed her character. She's just been annoying.
I don't like her. She's kind of. I feel like every time she, maybe this is it. I feel like every time she's in a scene with Mark, she's kind of looking down her nose at him. Like, I don't remember any scenes we've had where you actually care about their relationship or see them really actually liking each other at all. It's just her being kind of snippy about him being weird and then him having sad puppy dog eyes about it.
The TV shows really made you question how they got in the relationship in the first place. Like,
yeah,
all of their scenes together are just her being mad at him and him feeling bad about it, but just never explaining anything.
To be fair, it's a high school relationship, so it's kind of bound to be stupid and meaningless.
Where'd your Massimo meet?
University, it's fine. We made it past high school at least.
Okay, good. That's great. Yeah, I don't know. This was a good episode, though. I liked. They're kind of lengthening out some parts. They're shortening other parts of the story, but I mean, it's all architected by Robert Kirkman, and from what I understand, he's basically going back, taking his almost 20 years of writing experience since he wrote those initial volumes, and being like, this is what I could have done better with that material. Which, I mean, artist's vision, it's up to you really to decide if you like his original script or the show better. I like parts of each.
Yeah. If you had the chance and you were that guy, you totally would, wouldn't you? You'd be like, I wish I'd done this. So he's been given the opportunity now. Sorry, with The Walking Dead, he said he kind of wished that he hadn't cut Rick's hand off early on. Like, maybe wouldn't have done that in retrospect, and obviously the TV show didn't go down that route, so probably he had a little bit of input there as well. So carry on.
I think part of that with the TV show was just
budget.
I don't know, green screening off Andrew Lincoln's hand for several seasons would probably be pretty expensive. It's kind of the curse of being a writer, though, is you're always going to look back at your previous work and you're going to retroactively see things you could have done better, and you just kind of have to, with the exception of situations like this where you do get back to kind of do a do-over with an adaptation, you just kind of have to accept that, like, this is the art I put out there, and maybe I would do it differently now, but that's who I was then, and it's in the hands of other people now. Indeed. I say, having never published a thing in my life.
A minor detail.
Imagine.
Coaches
yeah,
don't
exactly.
play.
Exactly. And then we all watched Falcon and Winter Soldier, but we'll get to that in a little bit. News. New things happen this week. New things happen every week, and we like to talk about them, sometimes for a longer time than is necessary. I think the show stopped. You know what? Actually, let me get this out of the way before I forget again. The rumor that I was trying to think of earlier, I beat my head against the wall before we started recording trying to remember this, is there have been rumors that the MCU is going to bring back the actors for Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Punisher from their Netflix incarnations.
I noticed you left off Iron Fist there.
Yes, Iron Fist and Luke Cage are allegedly being recast. No one liked Iron Fist.
No, Luke Cage was okay though.
I don't think. Yeah, that's a weird one. I'm not sure why. There maybe scheduling conflicts if they're trying to have him in something. And I don't even think Iron Fist was the actor's fault. That was just that.
Yeah,
show's
it's
problem.
not great, but it was...
But they're gonna be, I guess, rebooting the characters themselves. So it'll be, the same. It'll be Charlie Cox playing Daredevil, but it'll be a rebooted canon MCU version of Daredevil, not the one from the show. I guess they want to bring back Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin as well. Again, a rebooted version, but that's great because I honestly cannot imagine anyone else playing that character.
No, definitely not.
Oh, he was so good. John Barenthal as the Punish ear because he's got big earlobes. Joke.
That's a big earlobes.
Joke. Wait, hang on. There we go. It was that good of a joke. And then so that was the thing I was trying to remember.
Well remembered.
I'm glad you got there.
Oh yes. So I guess the first instance we might see of that is there were all the rumors of Charlie Cox showing up as Peter Parker's lawyer, Matt Murdock, in No Way Home. So we'll see if that happens, and I guess we'll see where the MCU goes as far as bringing those actors over and what the new versions of those characters will look like.
The She-Hulk show, like he's got to show up there, right? Opposite Jen, like that would be.
Yeah. I would think so.
As long as they go
you
with
know
the
what I'm
courtroom
wondering?
route.
Yes, which I'd love to see that. That would be great. You know what I'm wondering for Punisher? I think maybe the place you reintroduce Frank Castle is segue to another news story, Captain America 4.
What?
Yeah, so Captain America 4 is being made to no one's surprise given how Falcon and Winter Soldier ended. We'll get
How
there.
did Falcon and
I
Winter
say
Soldier
that
end?
like multiple times every week. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There was also in the comics, some of the comics kind of made a point that Frank Castle as a soldier was inspired by Captain America. That was like one of his heroes. So if they bring the Punisher back into the MCU as a rebooted version of himself, I could see him showing up as maybe even something of an antagonist or an anti-hero in Captain America 4. Maybe not. I could be totally off base. I'm just thinking of things that have been announced that he could possibly show up in.
Since Scarlet Witch and Vision, I'm making no predictions because I went off the scale crazy on my predictions with that show.
We all did.
Yeah. But I think I went like next level crazy. Leading into one of our other news stories is I figured that they were going to introduce Hercules in Scarlet Witch and Vision. WandaVision.
Wait, hang on. I didn't hear this theory on your part. Where was the logic there for you?
Oh, dude. I said that was the
I don't think
the
there
guy
was
who
any.
witnessed. No, there wasn't. No, this was leaps and leaps of logic as I was rewatching every episode, going crazy on the notes. I was like, what's her name? The blonde neighbour who was like the head of the PTA and whatnot. That's terrible. I don't remember her name.
Dottie?
Dottie. I thought she was going to end up being
Yes.
Moonstone, and she was
Right.
going to be. There was like a whole leap of logic like this, but eventually it was going to be figured out that the person who was in witness protection was Hercules for some reason. You know, the one that Jimmy Woo was looking for, and that was I had reasons for this. Way too stupid to go into here, but just say I was very, very wrong. But now, obviously, we've found out that Russell Crowe is going to be playing Zeus in the next Thor film. So that was how I was like, it's coming. It's just further down the line. Like that's like I was just wrong in the place that we were going to get the Prince of Power. Anyway, that was
right.
A complete segue there for.
I mean,
for no
it's
reason.
good. You were wrong, but you were heading in the right direction.
You gave it your best shot.
I mean, we were predicting all kinds of wacky stuff with Falcon and Winter, or not Falcon and Winter Soldier, with WandaVision. Like, we thought every character was going to be something else. I was like, no, these are just like sad townspeople that got manipulated. Oops. Yeah, I mean, I tried to keep my predictions for Falcon and Winter Soldier to a minimum, but I mean, like, God, who knew Zemo was going to turn out to be Mephisto? What a twist!
It's crazy.
I didn't see it coming. Never in a million years would I have guessed that John Walker was a Skrull. What? None of these things are true. None of these things really happened.
Or are they?
Yes, Russell Crowe is Zeus, which I think that's cool casting. I'm looking forward. I like Russell Crowe.
Yeah, he could play a good god. Like, I'm into it.
Well, hey, let me ask you a question really quick, Alan. How did you feel about Russell Crowe as Jor-El?
I was into the casting before I saw the film, and when I saw the film, I was like, yeah, he was good in it. But subsequent rewatches have just annoyed the piss out of me. So let's not go over old ground. My thoughts on
but we're gonna
these films are okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I just wanted I wanted to see what your reaction was. Tom Taylor announced that he is going to be writing a Superboy book. They are canceling the main Superman title. We'll still have Action Comics Superman. And we are going to, and I think a lot of people kind of saw this coming. They've been kind of hinting towards this since Future State. But John Kent is going to get his own solo series as, I believe someone posted a logo on Twitter today. It was Superman, son of Kal-El. So it's not even Superboy. Like, no, he's taken the Superman mantle.
Is the Superboy thing is that not kind of tied up in legal problems and whatnot, or has that been resolved?
I think that's been resolved because they used Superboy Prime in Death Metal, and they've used him in some other stuff, and they called him Superboy Prime. He wasn't just Superman, which is kind of where a lot of those kind of legal quagmires came from. They also reintroduced Superboy as far as Clark as a teenager wearing a costume in Doomsday Clock. So yeah, I think those legal matters have been settled. And I think it wasn't even necessarily the Superboy name, because like Connor Kent always went by Superboy more or less.
Yeah, but I think it was either Jerry Siegel or Joe Shuster's family were kind of taking them back to court. Like, this happened post Connor Kent kind of thing. But I don't keep up with that.
It was a while ago. But I don't know if it was the Superboy name as a whole, or if it was just Clark Kent, the character of Clark Kent as a boy being Superboy, that was in dispute. I would have to look it up, and I don't feel like doing that right now. I'll read this. So I like Tom Taylor's work. He hasn't really written anything I didn't like for DC. He did Deceased. He did the Injustice backup comics. I believe he's writing one of the Batman titles. I think it's Urban Legends. Or no, not Urban Legends. It's The Detective. It's the one I really liked. So he's the first writer I can think of who is going to be writing a Superman and a Batman title concurrently. So congrats to Tom Taylor. You're doing it. You've got the monopoly.
Gentle applause so I harm them.
Now we just
golf clap.
Now we just need to get him on the Wonder Woman title, and he will be the Trinity author. Damn it! I would read a Tom Taylor Wonder Woman book. Have you guys read much of Tom Taylor's work?
Do not believe so.
I feel like I haven't read much of anything at this point.
That's fair. I feel like that sometimes. The Injustice backup comics were really good. I really recommend reading them. I'll talk to you guys off air about that. They were really good. Like Injustice as a video game, like the story was kind of like, there's enough narrative string to explain why all these heroes are fighting. The comic actually like dug deep and did a lot of really good characterization and made you care about the whole story. And that was the first Tom Taylor thing I think I read. What I'm really waiting for them to do is stick him on a Green Arrow book, because he writes Oliver Queen really well as a character you don't hate, because it's easy to write Oliver Queen in a way that's like, this guy's kind of a dick.
Yes, but I quite like him still. Like, I like the kind of second tier DC heroes better than I like their kind of main guys. Like, I like Wonder Woman is probably the exception to that, but Batman and Superman I can take or leave. But Green Arrow, I've always dug.
You need a superhero who you can question.
Yeah.
Like, it's more realistic that way.
Definitely.
I think you can question Batman a lot of times.
Yeah, but it's Batman. Like, it's a different sort of category.
That's true. I also feel like Oliver Queen kind of politically, in some ways, aligns with you pretty hard, Alan.
Me?
It's just
You two would
Yeah.
hate Snyder.
Yeah. He's also
Yeah.
an old guy with
Yeah.
a beard, so, like, what's not to love?
Hey, man, we just need to get you in a green suit with a funny hat.
That's it.
There we go.
Unfortunately, my vision is crap, so I think aiming is not going to be my thing, but as long as it's trick arrows...
He could be like Hawkeye from the Old Man Logan story, where he's blind but he still shoots a bow and arrow.
Yeah, just hit and hope.
Crossing universes.
They're basically the same.
Hey, more or less. Amelia Clarke has been cast in Marvel's Secret Invasion as nobody knows who yet.
Thoughts?
Bethany, I mean, my initial guess was Vernaki.
Skrull?
But like, yeah, Skrull Queen, but that doesn't really make sense. I think they'll cast someone a bit older as Vernaki.
Bethany?
Not that Amelia Clarke is like super, super young, but she has a young look to her.
She does.
Yeah, she tends to be cast in young girls because that's how Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
Definitely. Bethany, who you got? Who you think she'll be?
I don't even know who the options are. I feel like I should have warned you ahead. I go into most of this stuff.
Fair enough.
But she's in there, and I actually recognize her name as an actress, which is big for me, and so I know it tends to be good.
I don't know how that feels.
I remember we were doing the X-Men.
I'm bad with actor and actress names. I'm bad with author names.
I may have had to Google Russell Crowe, but we're not going to talk about it.
You ever seen Gladiator?
No, and Massimo still hates me for it.
Well, I mean, that is the history of his people.
So I've been told.
And it is 100% historically accurate.
Do you at least like pizza? Like,
yeah.
Right, cool. Right,
okay, because otherwise I was going to start questioning how you guys are together. Like, it stops making sense if food is the divide.
Didn't meet in high school, don't like Russell Crowe, doesn't like pizza, that would have been it. Like,
I mean, to be honest, I might like him. I just don't know who he is.
Yeah. That could actually be the secret to every healthy relationship, right? Like, just, probably stay out of each other's business. Don't get to know each other that well as a better man.
Which is why I've obviously joined the podcast, just to stay right out of his business.
Yes, exactly. You definitely aren't just slowly replacing him. I see your grand scheme.
Massa who?
If Massa what? If I've learned anything about relationships, it's that food is the great unifier.
Well, I mean, I bake, so I'm just going to be the reason he gets fat.
Nice.
And that works pretty well.
Yeah. He gets fat, he's not going anywhere.
We've spoke about Massimo probably slightly too much for an episode he's not on. But
Massimo.
It's a
Massimo massive
wrote an article this week about
We're giving him those shout-outs.
Shout-out.
Oh, hey. Speaking of trailers, Shang-Chi trailer came out. Now I can't edit it because that's a segue.
I was trying to give you a segue there and you just got really...
Damn it. Just steamrolled over myself. Oh, well. Shang-Chi trailer. That movie looks good.
Yeah. That looks kung fu as hell and I'm here for it. Like, I'm all about it.
Yes. Oh, I was going to say, I don't want to be reductive and say it looks kind of like Black Panther with kung fu, but like it looks kind of like Black Panther with kung fu.
But is that a problem?
No.
Exactly. So it's okay.
I'm talking to my pal Craig the other day, who, shout out to Craig and the F Sobriety podcast. If no one's listening to that, it's really good.
What up, Craig?
There you go. He gave us a shout out on the last episode. He's a big fan of the show.
Saw that.
And we were talking, and it's like Craig is way further to the left than I am. Just saying. I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm catching up. But he's, definitely further to the left than I am. And Black Panther is simultaneously, like, I think he loves it and also hates it. And I know why. Like, it's because of, a lot of the decisions that they have Killmonger make just to make him a bad guy. It's like he had legitimate reasons. Much like, and we will talk about this very soon, because we'll be talking about Bucky and Falcon's Power Hour. Carly in that show. Like,
yeah.
I was like, yeah, she's right. Like, what's the problem here? And then they had her blow up a bunch of people for no reason.
And she starts killing people.
Why? Just so that she now has to be the bad guy? Like, so, yeah, I can, Anyway, that's totally bad.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
I love Black Panther. But looking back...
I really like Black Panther.
That
Rest
is a
in peace,
problem.
Chad Boswick. This movie looks great though. Like that song they have in the trailer apparently is an original track for the trailer. That they didn't just take like something licensed and throw it in there. We're finally, so this is, if you think about it, this is finally following up on maybe one of the oldest threads in the MCU, because the organization of the Ten Rings are who kidnapped Tony Stark in 2008.
Yep. It's taken a while to get back there, but
and then we had what's his face pretending to be the Ten Rings with the fake Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
Yep.
Iron Man 3. And now we're finally gonna get the real Mandarin.
Which I quite like that they've found a workaround for it, because in the books it was Fu Manchu that was his dad, and that was the reason why we couldn't get reprints of Master of Kung Fu and Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, because they didn't have the rights to Fu Manchu. Also, it's kind of a problematic character a little bit. It's just like Yellow Peril type thing.
Just
but,
a tad.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they've kind of managed to find a way to work in like the real Mandarin, and also Shang-Chi's dad being some next level baddie. So that's it's win-win as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. I like that his response to "Who are you?" is to do a kung fu pose. I assume that's edited. Like, I don't think that's his actual response to that.
Can you imagine though?
But if it is his actual response,
that would be great. Who are you? And he's just like. And you're like, that's not a name.
But he doesn't need a name. He knows Kung Fu.
Martial arts is the universal language.
How's it going to work on the phone, though? What's your name?
He'll make Kung Fu noises. He'll just make Bruce Lee noises from Enter the Dragon. When Bruce Lee stomps that dude's neck and he's like, whoa! And looks sad about it somehow.
He's a peaceful man.
A peaceful man driven to war, something. Stuff that nice guys on the internet post to make it seem like they're scary.
Milady.
Don't do that.
Tipping intensifies.
We already talked about Captain America. Head, tip that hat. We already talked about Captain America 4 has been announced.
Which was only the segue I gave towards the Falcon and Winter Soldier talk.
Yeah, I know.
Set it up.
I knew I was throwing the. I'm still, it's harder than you think to host a podcast. If you haven't been watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, you might be like, Captain America 4, how would they do that? Steve Rogers be old now. Well, that's because there's a new Captain America, bitches. Let's talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Let's.
I don't like the plot of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I may have enjoyed this show slightly too much.
It's okay. Let's let Alan say words too. He's got so many looks on his face right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's so just normal for me. Yeah, I can't help myself. I know I'm on camera, so I'm just going, but
yeah, you emote a lot.
I do. I'm very emoty. But I really, really, really loved the Falcon and Winter Soldier up until that point where Carly just becomes bad guy du jour for no reason. Like, that really pissed me off. I still liked it after that, but I was just kind of disappointed. It was episode 6 or 7 of WandaVision, crushing disappointment of just, they've went from being quite an interesting concept to just being a standard punchy superhero show, which just kind of, it doesn't thrill me anymore. Like, we've seen too many of them now. I'm spoiled. Like, they've given me 20 years, like, since Blade or whatever. Like, we've had a lot of superheroes punching things. I quite liked that they were doing that kind of super spy type thing. And I love what they did with Sharon Carter. Like, I'm so glad that she has become something else now, which we'll probably get to in a moment. But the Carly thing was just annoying as hell. I
called it with Sharon Carter.
You did. Sorry, yeah, I kind of went off on one there about my thoughts on the Winter Soldier. I dug it as well.
I really loved everything they did for the characters throughout the show. I liked the evolution of the relationship between Bucky and Sam. I loved
the bromance.
Yeah, I love them digging into Sam's family and his relationship with his community. I liked them dealing with the after effects of Bucky's time as the Winter Soldier.
That scene in Wakanda was very, very good.
Yes.
Like that, oh my gosh, yes. That opening
the amount of emotions that went across us in the space of
such an intense 45 seconds.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, the character stuff in the show was fantastic. The actual plot that drove the show just kind of
Questionable.
off with the pacing. Daniel said, our friend Lovely Daniel, fellow co-host of the podcast some weeks, said when the first couple episodes came out that he felt like they were kind of slow. And I kind of felt that. I felt like the pacing for the plot was slow up until like the last episode when it was just kind of a breakneck pace. I mean, the stuff with the flag smashers, yeah, I was on board with their message at first, and then Carly turns into a murder pants, and I mean, you're really still on board with their message at the end. Like Sam's whole thing throughout the show that makes him fit for the role he steps into is, hey, your message is right. I agree with you. Your methods are wrong. So, I mean that, and I feel like that made her kind of a weak antagonist because it was like, oh, I guess now you're just interesting because you're going to blow people up. The whole power broker thing is obviously setting up for stuff later down the line. I mean, we're going to say it like spoilers. Sharon Carter is the power broker. If you didn't guess that after watching the Madripoor episode, you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're setting up for stuff down. Like, I think what it is I know that a lot of Marvel is, and the kind of joke is every Marvel movie is a trailer for the next trailer. Like every Marvel property is setting up for the next Marvel property, but so much of this show felt like it was setting up for stuff down the line.
But despite the setup, we still got a lot of decent character development, which I feel like if you jump straight into a movie instead of a TV show, we would have missed so much of that, which made the characters more real.
Correct.
And I will say for the show,
Yes,
I know that everyone was after WandaVision. I thought it was a nice breath of fresh air just in terms of the choreography of the fight scenes. Like they were very well done.
Definitely.
Especially the way they incorporated like Sam's like jetpack into it and stuff like that. Like they were so well done.
Yes.
Which is just fun to see. I know like you're like a punchy superhero show, is that really needed? But like the quality of it is up there.
Oh no, I mean that's the reason why I still liked it even after the kind of Carly nonsense. But no, the violence
just blame
was
that
quality.
on the serum and move on.
Yeah,
That's it.
she had a moment. Look at John Walker, for God's sake! Like the serum, no good can come of it. You know that I loved it in the comics when Sam Wilson becomes Captain America, because obviously he doesn't have the serum. He just, he's been flying and whatnot for so long that he's got his own moves, and he then incorporates the shield into it. But see the opening like bit where he comes into the building and he throws the shield through and like bounces it off a bunch of things, rolls, catches it, and I was just like, yes! I love Falcon as Captain America.
It was nice getting to see his training too.
Yeah. Who doesn't love a montage, right?
Yes. The entire time during that training montage, I was like, it's cool that he's doing gymnastic flippy flips, but kind of pointless. But they made it work with these fight scenes.
Yeah. If you're fighting George St. Pierre, you probably need something a little off, right? A little different. Like, that guy's going to mess you up.
You better be able to do gymnastic flippy flips, because George St. Pierre sure can.
Yes, he can.
He can do the most gymnastic flippy flips.
I'm sorry, my door has mysteriously opened and now I'm being looked at by Massimo. Please leave.
Yeah.
Tell him we said hi.
Oh, they
bye,
say
Massimo.
Hi.
Be gone.
I don't know what he just said.
This is good.
I think it's the window being open. The door just popped on open and I just...
It's good podcasting.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm leaving it in. Let's see here.
We spoke about him enough. He might as well,
Yeah, little cameo.
Guest starring Massimo without guest starring Massimo. Okay, we need to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, the character work in the show, circling back around here, the character work in the show, I think, is the reason, like the character work and the fight choreography is the reason to watch the show. The overall plot from episode 1 to episode 6, as far as the flag smashers and John Walker and all that, it's okay. It's not the strongest Marvel plot. It's clearly setting up for stuff down the line.
It was nice to see. It was nice to see Sam's sort of history with the counseling in there a little bit more, though, to be reminded of what he used to do. That was a nice touch.
I like
before,
that.
Once again, John Walker messed effing up.
I liked
that was nice.
Liked the
be
little bit
of
a turn. I liked the little bit of a turn we got with John towards the end, where he seemed to kind of not fully realize the error of his ways. Obviously, he chooses. I thought they weren't going to do it. I thought he was going to choose revenge over saving the people in the truck, but he has kind of his redemptive moment. I think we're still going to see him doing some shady stuff as U.S. agent, probably in Captain America 4, if I had to guess.
I think we're going to see a lot of Zemo, US agent, Sharon Carter, and the Contessa and whatnot through all of the Marvel stuff going forward now. I don't think it's just going to be a Captain America thing. I think it will be like Nick Fury showing up at the end of most Marvel films at the start to, tie
I
everything
have
together.
zero issues seeing more Zemo.
Oh yeah,
I have
100%.
zero issues seeing more of him because
That
this
guy's
show
great.
his character was already interesting. They've done so much to just make him slightly too likable.
I love that moment at the end of the finale when they blow up the truck full of Flag Smashers and he's just in his cell in the raft, kind of smiling to himself.
Yes.
Bastard.
So good. But yeah, I think the Contessa is going to be the kind of connective tissue for MCU going forward, because obviously we were supposed to have had Black Widow before now. It was supposed to be before WandaVision and whatnot, and she's apparently in that as well. So that was where they were going to start bringing that together. But I think she's going to be the one that's bringing all the kind of Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers or whatever way they're going to go with it together for some sort of threat down the line.
I keep forgetting that Black Widow is a thing. That movie's been delayed so many times.
Just like a year or two.
Yeah,
a year and a half, something like that.
I'm still very excited.
I would not be surprised to see some sort of Dark Avengers thing happening with the Contessa instead of Norman Osborn at the head.
Yeah, that's
because I might be wrong, but I don't think we're gonna see a Norman Osborn in the MCU. We might see the Norman Osborn somewhat related to the Sam Raimi universe briefly cameo, but I don't think we're gonna get I don't think Tom Holland's gonna get his own Norman Osborn,
which is a shame.
But so obviously the one thing we haven't outright said is Sam Wilson gets his Captain America suit, and it looks okay.
And I think the best part of it, ignoring all looks, the best part entirely is the fact that it was by Bucky. That Bucky was the one who made him have it. I think that is so key to development of their character. As a team, that
Absolutely.
He's the one who was you have permission to wear this. I think that was
definitely.
Well, and it's a change. In the beginning, he was saying Steve gave you the shield. He chose you, and you don't necessarily it's not a matter of if he agreed with it or not. It's just Steve chose you, and what Steve says goes. And then we've transitioned to I have chosen you. You are the new Captain America. You deserve this. You've earned it. That was definitely a big moment.
The very
suit
end
might not be the most
sorry. No, carry on.
This suit might not be the most exciting in terms of MCU suits, but it is very comic accurate.
Yeah,
which we know they tend to start that way and then change up a little bit. So we'll probably see it evolve over movies anyway. But right now, going accurate for the comics probably needed.
Yeah.
Oh, it's super accurate. I like it. I think his headpiece looks a little weird. That's my only problem with it.
I mean, to be fair, all superhero costumes look kind of ridiculous, but that's what I like about them. They are ridiculous. Embrace it sometimes. We've moved on from X-Men, in, what was it, 1990 something, 2000. So we don't.
Grant Morrison black jackets with a yellow insignia.
Yeah. Give me Wolverine in yellow spandex. I'll watch it.
It's not that it looks ridiculous. I'm fine with that. It's literally that the headpiece just looks molded weird. It fits on his head weird. It reminds me of some of the early Flash suits on the CW.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that the design is bad. I'm fine with the design. It's just kind of this makes your head look weird and puffy. I don't know. I really like that. I really liked his speech at the end to the various senators or whoever it was of the global whatever committee.
Whatever it is.
Relocation. Yeah. GRC.
Good message, but it felt a little long-winded. It was a bit on the preachy side.
Little bit.
I was kind of sitting there watching it being this would never happen. They would just turn around and walk away at some point. You wouldn't get your word in like this.
There's a reason it's fiction.
Yeah. What I really did love, I loved how they tied up the Isaiah Bradley thing.
See, I was just about to say I wasn't a big fan of that. I mean, I like the fact that he kind of made an attempt to make it right, but that dude was 30 years in jail and, had a lot of bad stuff happen to him. that's not enough to
But
make
the
it.
only other way to solve it is to make the world know that he's alive again, which is the
Yeah.
one thing he didn't want. This was the
Well,
only
like-
way to respect him without, like, exposing.
They could
Yeah.
also, well, that's true. They couldn't really, I mean, well, they could have given his family like a bunch of dollars though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're hiding that his family is alive. But yeah,
His
no,
grandson's gonna come back at some point.
I liked that little bit, but I get what you're saying. Like, that's the least they could have done. Like, that doesn't really make up for 30 years of prison and horrific experiments.
And I get that Sam Wilson doesn't have control over what the government will do or whatever. Like, it's not his place to make that right. Like, far from it. But it was just kind of like, it's a big hug and everything's well at the end. And I was like, yeah, it's a start. You know what I mean? Like, it's a step in the right direction.
Well, and I think that's all it's meant to be. Is like, this
Yeah,
is a
no,
step in. Yeah.
I've just been a dick.
I really dig the U.S. agent suit in black.
Yes.
I like it.
I also like the fact that they acknowledged that genuinely was just the same suit in black.
Yep.
That acknowledgement.
Same thing, just
that
black.
added something to it that made it more realistic, where he was
Yeah.
just like, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's just this is the same suit, but like it's dark now. But I did feel okay. I felt like the introduction of his name though was kind of Fantastic Four-y.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
And
a
that they were
little bit.
like, the world's not going to need a Captain America. It's going to need a U.S. agent. Roll credits. And you're like,
What does that even mean?
yeah, right? Okay, you just put that in here so we all know, like, okay, that's the name.
And then she just walks out and doesn't explain anything.
Right?
I think that's going to be her
That felt
thing,
really
though.
weird.
I think that's her thing. Like, she'd done it in the last
Yeah.
episode that she was in. She just kind of stoated in and then didn't really say much and left.
Yeah.
I think she's
That's kind of-
funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's a great actress for. I mean, she played the character she did in Seinfeld for years for a reason.
I personally really enjoyed the end little barbecue scene.
Yes.
Mm.
I was going to say that a minute ago.
That was a
but,
nice touch, just to remind us
yeah.
that at the end of it all, they are human, and Bucky managed to get invited to the cookout, and he shows up like this little uncle playing around with the kids and cake. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
like him
just such a
hanging the
good way
kids
to
off
end
his
it.
arm.
Yeah,
as
as
he's
casually
chatting up
continues
Sarah.
conversation.
That's going to be the plot of Captain America
It's a good
4, right?
touch.
Bucky and Sam's sister, and Sam and him have to fight now because that's not allowed or something. Like,
Yes.
that's going to be the misunderstanding.
I mean,
where-
he said,
The
"Don't
Winter
hit on my
Soldier
sister."
2.0.
yeah. I loved like,
Oh,
that's
The
man.
entire
thing I was gonna
plot of
say,
the Winter
like-
Soldier again, except from now Captain America's mad.
Yes.
it was a great film. Why not revisit it, right?
That was a very good conversation, guys.
What were you gonna say, Alan?
Just the bit at the end where Sam's kind of staring meaningfully out to the distance over the water, and Bucky just kind of walks up, and it's like the two of them are just like have that little moment, and then walk back to the rest of the family, and I was like, beautiful, just
Bros.
so nice.
That's good. Also, Bucky kind of making peace with I forget what his name is, the elderly Asian man whose son he murdered.
Yeah,
That scene felt a little bit rushed.
yeah.
It definitely
Just a
rushed,
tad.
but
The touch of giving the notebook to the therapist was nice, though.
yeah, it's
Even
definitely
if
it
it
was
didn't
definitely
mean-
more about what it represented than really diving deep into that scene itself.
Yeah.
He was, as Sam put it, putting in the work.
The therapist. I'm going back to my WandaVision crackpot theories here. I was convinced that she was going to be Moonstone this time. Like, I was like, Moonstone's got to come into this, so she must be Moonstone. And when he gives her the book, like, I was like, or when she gets the book, I was like, oh, this is going to be some moment where she's on the phone to like Sharon Carter or something. But no, she's just a therapist. Pardons are overrated.
You really want them to
Depends
introduce
on the therapist.
Moonstone.
I really do. And I'm not even that
Yeah.
crazy about the Moonstone character. I don't know why I'm so desperate for it to happen.
You're just invested in the theory at this point.
Yeah, that's it. I just want to be right. It doesn't matter how good or bad they do it, as long as I'm right. Like, that's the main thing. Speaking of funny moments as well, when Sam Wilson crashes through the window and like knocks out the first flag smasher guy, and the dude's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Captain America. I thought he was on the moon." Just little callback to the silly conspiracy theory.
Yes.
Like, that slayed me, that line. I love that one.
I love that. I love that reference both times in the beginning of the show and here. I love that reference to I think it's Original Sin.
Yeah.
A story where the Watcher gets murdered on the moon, and you find out that Nick Fury has been a life model decoy the entire time, and the real Nick Fury has been on the moon, and he's an old ass man. Which They could do that in the MCU. I don't think they will, but they could.
Yeah, I can't see it. I'd like to
I
see
don't
the
think it
Watcher.
quite fits in.
No.
Haven't they? Didn't the Watcher have a brief cameo in one of the movies?
There was.
Didn't he like briefly show up?
They had it was the
And we're
Stan
gonna
Lee
have a What
cameo.
If series.
It was the Stan Lee cameo where he was basically
Oh, yeah,
the man
yeah,
in the
yeah.
moon, and the Watcher was there or something. Like I can't remember
Yes.
exactly.
No, but yeah, you're right. I don't remember which movie, but yes, that is what it is. And we're gonna have the What If series. So the Watcher exists in the MCU. So we'll see, I guess.
I could put the Watcher.
Overall thoughts on Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
It was good,
I
but
liked
it could have been better.
Yes, I'm looking forward to Loki.
Yeah.
Oh man, the countdown is on.
Yep. We'll be right back here talking about Loki, just like we were about WandaVision, just like we've been about Captain America Falcon.
I'm
Black
really
Falcon and the
excited
Winter Soldier.
for Moon Knight. I know it's miles away, like it's next year or the year after. I don't know. It's a ways away. But Oscar Isaac, have you seen some of the training videos he's done? Like
Moon Knight.
it looks so
Yes.
good, man. Like super violent, and he's great.
Oh, that
so
looks sick.
yeah. Plus, I can sell some of my Moon Knight comics for
Punisher.
some of that sweet cashola.
That is another series where you could potentially have the Punisher show up as a cameo.
Yeah, I mean, Daredevil, Moon Knight, Punisher, like the heroes for hire, all kind of
Start forming the MCU Defenders.
Yeah, like do it.
Yeah,
just
do it.
Do Iron Fist right for God's sake.
Yes. We need to move on to the topic of the week because we're at like an hour 15, which is we put out the call for people's favorite original soundtracks, or I guess just soundtracks because there are some licensed ones that we're going to call out for superhero movies. And we got a couple responses on Facebook when we put that out. So I'm going to go through a couple of them here. Some people didn't leave a lot of detail. They just wrote a couple of them. So Benjamin called out Batman, Spider-Verse, Watchmen, and a shout out to Hellboy 2. I remember, well, I'm assuming he's talking about 1989 Batman, Danny Elfman.
Or Prince.
I don't
Batman
really
is a
remember
bit
Hellboy
vague.
2 soundtrack.
Yeah, there's a lot of Batman. I assumed 1989. Like that's the one I assumed.
Yeah. Ryan Smith says Suicide Squad was fire. I don't agree. I mean, not that the soundtrack itself was bad, but it was just the nature of that movie.
Oh yeah, I
It's a
hated
bad movie soundtrack, but it's a good album, if that makes
Sure.
sense.
Yeah. It's
It's not a
okay
soundtrack,
album.
it's just the okay collection.
Benjamin comes back, giving a shout out to the original Spider-Man soundtrack, speaking of Danny Elfman.
Bit of Macy Gray and stuff. And
Yeah. Spider-Man 2, of course, we've got our Hoobastank starting as some real weird places with that soundtrack.
how to date it.
Craig Longworth calls out the soundtrack to Batman Forever. Got a little seal on there.
Oh yeah, U2 and stuff like that. Yeah, that's right.
Uh-huh. That's
The
all I remember
Seal
from that
song
soundtrack.
is
Actually,
absolutely
the
brilliant.
actual theme from Batman Forever, like the actual, Batman theme is pretty good. Like it's a good Batman theme.
Don't remember.
Scott Duncan, 1989 Batman, of course, with Prince, the Bat Dance, Party Man, all that. And Batman v Superman, because Hans Zimmer. Get to that. Let's see here. Anything else? Scott Duncan, number 3. Okay, so Scott Duncan also calls out Watchmen. And we've got a couple. We got a couple of call outs from Kev McGee here. We've got The Crow. We've got the Tank Girl soundtrack, and we've got Flash Gordon.
Nice.
Because Flash,
Gordon's alive!
I regret that immediately.
Same.
I could tell.
The dead silence. So what about you guys? So soundtracks, I guess, I'll start off. I really love the soundtracks to the Zack Snyder trilogy. Even if you think those are bad movies, Junkie XL slaps. I love the Batman theme from Batman v Superman. I love the Superman theme from The First Flight. I think they're good themes. I like the Wonder Woman theme that, of course, got reused in the Patty Jenkins initial Wonder Woman movie. And, of course, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, you got that with the added yodeling from Amazon Chorus. That part was kind of...
Take or leave it.
Excuse me. what was it called? Something Lamentation. I forget at this point. That's what the subtitles called it.
Yeah, I remember you saying this before. Yeah.
Ancient
Really the wrong
Lamentation or
crowd to
something.
ask.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that would those three movies have a really good soundtrack. Obviously, the Chris Nolan Batman movies. I think specifically the theme for Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Those two themes. As a matter of fact, really the themes from all of them were really recognizable. I remember when The Dark Knight Rises came out. I don't really love that movie, but what I liked about the soundtrack is it had a lot of callbacks that kind of mixed the themes from Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, which was kind of, I thought, a very cool musical way to bring those stories together into a final chapter.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the other one I was thinking of is the first Spider-Man movie. Just Danny Elfman's soundtrack for that movie is definitely of the time. I wouldn't necessarily pick Danny Elfman to score a modern superhero film.
No, had to stay, right?
Unless it's, Doctor Strange 2. Isn't he doing Doctor Strange 2? Am I crazy?
I don't know, maybe.
But
To
I think
both.
he is. But it really fit the silly comic book aesthetic of that original Spider-Man and everything Sam Raimi was doing. It's a really great theme tune, a really great soundtrack. What about you guys? Alan, what have you got for me for soundtracks?
I think me and Bethany cross over on one, so I'll leave that till the last one, and then we can segue into Bethany's as well. But I went for...
Ooh, smooth.
Yeah, I thought so. The Crow, as well as Kev McGee. So The Crow is just an awesome movie soundtrack. It's got all of your favourite early 90s grunge and metal bands on it. You get Helmet, Rage Against the Machine, Jesus and Mary Chain, who I just remembered are playing Glasgow later on this year. I think it's so that. But just a lot of angsty, dirty, sad songs. And
definitely really definitely kind of like a window into that time period.
Oh yeah, like I'm saying,
I mean,
like
that
the
sounds
Spider-Man
good, but I've got no idea
it.
what The Crow is.
Oh,
I would say the Crow, if you like. Yeah, if you like watching kind of silly, edgy stuff, like The Crow is definitely worth going back and watching.
Like
and try not to think about the fact that Brandon Lee. Yeah, and try not to think about the fact that Brandon Lee died tragically on set. See, now I brought the room down, but it's fitting for The Crow because it's a movie about death.
It's a sad, sad thing. We'll never know what he could have been on to do.
Family, man.
Yeah, it's just if there's any grandkids or whatever, please stay away from show business. Like, just live a nice life, like, for God's sake.
Yeah, don't do any movies.
Yeah.
Don't do any movies.
Some guy's got a loaded gun. It's blanks. It's probably not blanks. It's probably not blanks.
It's not. It's never blanks. I think it's blanks.
Just stay
away. It's okay. They got someone else to star in Warrior, so it's probably fine.
That's true. Which, did you say you were watching that? Yeah. I saw the first episode when it first aired, and I liked it, but I just not watched the rest of it. Oh,
you're talking about how much you dig like the kung fu stuff, man. The Bruce Lee influence is strong in that show.
I remember reading Bruce Lee biography, and that was his dream, was basically to make that show, which eventually became Kung Fu. But this seems like it's more his vision kind of thing.
Well, it's funny now because CW has done a Kung Fu reboot.
Yeah.
And then you've got Warrior over here realizing his original vision. It's almost like a Deep Impact Armageddon scenario. Yeah.
Which one's going to have the better soundtrack? Whichever one has Aerosmith is the answer. Speaking of soundtracks.
Yes.
Black Panther was my next choice, just because almost every song is a banger, man. Like, it's just, I listened to it for the first time in ages today, and I was just like, that's right, this is really good. Georgia Smith, like Kendrick Lamar, everybody on it is so good, man. Like, I absolutely love that album.
Run the Jewels in that initial trailer was a strong choice.
Definitely. Not a bad song on it. I don't remember like listening to a bad tune. So yeah, start to finish, absolute classics.
Yeah.
My third one, which I believe ties in.
I think there's a third one where you and Bethany kind of cross over here.
Indeed.
Yes.
Into the Spider-Verse. Take it away, Bethany. How good is that album?
Well, it's just really good, isn't it? It's also just a very smart move in terms of marketing, because those songs were going to chart. It was like nice and current. They made it very relevant to storyline, because obviously when they were focusing on younger Spider-Man, it's way more appropriate. I hate when they do like kids movies and they're like, we're only going to include songs that kids won't listen to.
Yeah, something from the 1960s.
the main character. Yeah. My other choice includes Guardians of the Galaxy. Because that is just good sound. It does not matter who you're around or what the mood is. If you put that on, everyone is having a good time.
It's funny. None of those songs on that soundtrack are songs I necessarily would have listened to or been into by themselves. But after I saw the movie, like I purchased the soundtrack, I listened to it on repeat. The association alone with how much I enjoyed the movie was like, no, I like this music now.
Well, it's so appropriate to the movie, and it's just so enjoyable.
It's even part of the story of the film, which was really good as well. Like, and I loved that they did that for like the second one. Was like he got the other tape, which was nice.
Yeah,
it wasn't as good, but I liked the fact that they just going to continue.
I think the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack might be the best use of a licensed soundtrack in a superhero film.
Yeah, it's hard to argue.
I would agree with that statement.
It is on the exact opposite side of the graph from Suicide Squad.
Which is the whole reason the Suicide Squad became that one. Is that your next one? Is it?
No. My last one is Birds of Prey.
Nice.
Which is a movie I'm yet to see.
It's so good.
Not seen it once, but it's a good soundtrack.
Super good.
I know you bullied me about this before the podcast. I will watch it because I've been meaning to, but the soundtrack is good.
Yeah,
Ewan McGregor's a lot of fun.
Going like all female was such a good move to tying it into the movie. They had some of the bigger artists, obviously, then they had smaller artists and stuff like that, which is like a nice mix. Yeah, I promise I'll watch it.
Definitely.
I'll do it.
It's a really fun movie. Like Ewan McGregor is just like a coked up Black Mask is so good. Even if the mask that they gave him is kind of silly looking and like a sort of ridiculous version of Victor Zsasz that I dug anyway.
Yeah.
Like really nowhere near his comic incarnation, but I was into it.
Yeah, there wasn't anything
about
it
the
that I
same
didn't
hype
enjoy.
as a lot of other movies. I didn't hear as much about this movie as any other movie, which is quite sad.
I think
it suffered from
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Yes. It suffered from guilt by association.
I went into that film thinking this is going to be absolutely horrendous. Like I didn't go to the cinema to see it. I waited till it came on TV. Like that's how long I waited. And it just came on one day and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to watch this. Like I bet it's absolutely dire. And it was great. Like I loved it from the minute Harley Quinn breaks some guy's legs. I was like, sold. Right, you've got me.
Yes.
I really love Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. And yet I don't like Harley Quinn normally. So it's just she just is charming or something with it.
She embodies characters so well.
Yeah, I mean,
she embodies characters so well.
Did you see the ice skating one? I, Tonya?
I haven't seen
I do know some stuff.
It's so good. Did you see it? You didn't see it, but did you see it? I'm pointing at the screen.
Yes.
You don't know who I'm talking to because you don't know which side of the screen. Bethany, did you see it?
No.
I did, yes.
It's so good.
Which is the reason I was able to name it.
Bethany knows things!
Occasionally. Very sporadically.
Okay. I told you guys, my short-term memory is horrible. I don't remember author names. That's part of the reason I don't do the interview podcast. Is like I'm just so bad at remember. Like,
so anyway,
Big
Dave,
Ian, Boss Ian will say he'll say we're interviewing a name, and I'm like, what did they do? What have they been on?
Stan Lee. Nah.
Like obviously, if we interviewed a really like huge name, I'd probably recognize it. But some other creators, I'm like, I've read stuff that they did. It turns out I just didn't know it because I don't pay attention.
But by the point when you get big people on, you're going to feel too bad to interview them because everyone else has been interviewing people.
Oh, absolutely. To say that we have some fantastic guests.
Like Dan, Massimo, have fun.
Yeah. That's Alan. That's Daniel, Alan, and Matt. Like that's your guys' show at this point. Like
I've only heard good things about the people who've been interviewed. Massimo leaves every interview pure hype.
Yeah, I'm just here for this regular asshole podcast where we talk over
struggle
each other
to get through our topics.
Sit in awkward silence for a while.
It's all or nothing with us, like, you know.
Excellent. I'm glad you all caught on to the joke. I'm so glad that went exactly the way I hoped. Well, that sure is some soundtracks for some movies. Yes. We don't know what we're going to talk about next week, but it'll probably be something. Invincible finale we'll probably talk about, I'm sure. And
I will attempt to have thoughts.
yeah, we'll try to have thoughts about it, and we'll talk about any other news that comes out, and I will try to read some things so that I have something to talk about.
I'll read more Strangers in Paradise
In
and
case it's not
do
incredibly
a
obvious.
rubbish job of telling you what it's all about.
Yes. No, actually, I kind of want to read that now. So we'll be back next week. As always, don't forget that you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram as BGCP Comic Con. We have a Facebook page both for the page and for the podcast. Make sure you leave a little like, a little subscribe on that YouTube business. Give us a review on your podcast app of choice, unless it's like a 1-star review, in which case you have better things to do with your day. Walk on, son.
But if it's
as
a
always-
5-star review, this is the most important thing you'll do if you
Yes, exactly.
Do
And
it.
as always, we'll be back next week with more comic news, reviews, interviews, and random rambling.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
This is the outro track. Thank you for listening to Disassembled. You can find more news and reviews on BigGlasgowComicPage.com. And don't forget, you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as BGCP Comic Con. Make sure you also subscribe on your podcast provider of choice for new episodes every week.